welcome to the Inspired by Sessions powered by Tag Network Midlands, an online series to support entrepreneurs, leaders and founders within the region. I am your host, Sam Wiltshire, and today I am very excited to be joined by the amazing Tara Attfield-Tomes. Welcome, Tara.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the good welcome as well.
It's all good. So for those of you in the audience who don't know who Tara is, Tara, could you explain a little bit about what it is you do?
Yeah, so I run a PR agency called East Village based in Birmingham. We work with clients all over the UK, and our kind of USP, I guess, is that we work with brands that make people want to feel good. So in a time of kind of fake news and comparison culture, we proactively go out there and work with businesses of all shapes and sizes, charities as well, predominantly across creative and tech, leisure and hospitality, and health and wellbeing. So that could be everything from a sustainable beauty product through to a mental health charity, a tech consortium and everything in between. So it is all about kind of putting out stories and telling stories of great founders, brands, thought leaders who are all about making people feel good in whatever way that looks. My job, I guess, as the agency founder, I talk about it's all about how the business looks on the outside but feels on the inside. So we're really, really big on kind of team culture, looking after our team, making sure that our perks kind of really make the difference. So I oversee all of that. And then, of course, all of the boring bits like the admin, HR, finance stuff. And I'm predominantly kind of go out there and get us new business and just make sure the kind of strategy is in place and we're kind of going in the direction that we want to.
I love that you, instead of going for like a traditional niche, like, oh, we do it with service-based businesses or products, you've gone for feeling good and wellness and making people feel great. So how did you kind of come up with that idea? How did you come to that? Is it something that you've always wanted to do?
Yeah, so when I first set up the agency, so the agency this year is coming up to 10 years old, which is crazy. And when I first set it up, it was all about an agency centred around team culture. So I'd experienced, the roles, kind of that feeling of not feeling valued and really giving your all and not getting a lot back. Obviously, when I set it up, I had no idea that COVID would come, that the kind of social sentiment around work and work-life balance would change. So actually all of those things that really mattered to us as a business, that caring for the team, how do we make people feel like they belong? I always wanted a business where people could bring as much of themselves as they wanted to work. So this kind of notion around you can bring your whole self to work. Well, if you don't want to bring your whole self, you don't have to. But if you do want to, that space should be there. And so that's how we naturally, I guess, aligned with businesses who were positive in their outlook, which is very similar to me as a person. And we kind of then started to coin it as these businesses that made people want to feel good. And I think that's, for us, that's really, really important. So it naturally happened in the beginning, but actually now we're really proactive about that. So, if people come to us for new business and we have inquiries, we go through a couple of processes to kind of make sure that they're the right fit. And that is really, really important to us.
Okay, yeah, that's such a refreshing thing to hear in terms of like how you've actually built the business around the people you're working with. And I think one thing that always really comes across super well on all of your socials and wherever I see anything East Village is that you all look like you're having loads of fun together and you're all really good friends. So when you are going through the hiring process and trying to find a new team member, how does that look? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I guess, and I guess my job to talk to other businesses about their employer brand. I guess even when I set up the agency, I didn't even know it was employer brand, but actually it really matters. So I used to just really simply talk about it as about you wouldn't go to a hairdresser with bad hair. And so you wouldn't go, well, I personally wouldn't go to a PR agency that's not good at their own PR. So for me, it was all about how do we make sure that East Village is a brand in itself and we do cool stuff as East Village, not as who everyone knew then as Attfield-Tomes, because obviously I already had great networks, not then as just an agency working with clients. Like how did we kind of set in stone that East Village had its own brand and its own feel? That was really important, and that plays a massive part in the recruitment process, because actually what I want is for people to read a job ad and think, oh, they sound like they're for me, and go on our website and see a business that represents them and how they look and how they feel and the values that they have. So that recruitment process actually starts way, way, way before we even put a job out there. It's, you know, who are we working with and how do we talk about them? What comes across on our social media? What imagery do we use? You know, everything is in the most sincere way, but really well thought out. And then for our recruitment process is actually like, we have a really, really fair, transparent recruitment process. Like we basically did some training to make sure we've taken all of the bias out of it. And that's quite hard as a business owner, you know, like a lot of what you want to do is on instinct, because that's it. Like you run a business on your gut feelings, but actually it's really important for us. Like when we have a job, we know the skills that we need, we know the characteristics of a person that we need, and we give everyone who applies the kind of fairest chance. And then, of course, you will always get a vibe from people in the room. But actually, and there's a real balance there between how do you make sure your recruitment process is fair and transparent and bias free, and then how do you battle that if you kind of meet someone in a room and you're like, oh, you just feel like our kind of person. So yeah, that is always a real challenge. And of course we don't get it right, and of course, you know, people come for interviews and have their game face on in interviews, and actually they might come and be quite a different character. What we try to make sure we do is that we as a team always embody that kind of East Village feel, so that actually, you know, and we've had people come and join us before, and kind of at their 3 months they're like, you guys are amazing, the job is exactly what you said on paper, I'm just not the right person for it. Like, you know, agency life is hard, there's a lot to juggle, and I always want that. I always want someone to feel like they can be kind of open and honest, but for me it's really important that their takeaway is this job is exactly what you sold and this team is exactly what you portray. That's really, really important. And you know, we try not to have too much of that kind of Instagram versus reality. Like we want to bring across the personality, but like, and the fun that we have in a really genuine way. And yeah, don't get me wrong, like sometimes it's hard and sometimes things don't go right and not everyone gets on all of the time. But on the whole, yeah, I hope what we portray to the kind of the outside world is how the business feels a lot of the time.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you are smashing it in that respect. So the thought of building a team to me seems really daunting and scary, because you are opening up your idea and your business as a founder to other people. Like, what's the biggest challenge you found growing a team?
There are many. I remember when I first set up the business, somebody, a well-known business owner in Birmingham, said to me, your two challenges will always be people and cash flow. And how right they were, because you can't and shouldn't, you can't control people. So, you know, like I say, someone could present incredibly well in an interview and absolutely smash it on the scoring, their references, given the best references ever, and they come in and they're nothing like that person. You can't control that. You also can't control other people's truths. So one of the challenges we have, and a lot of businesses are having, especially at the moment in a kind of post-COVID world, Gen Z, the younger generation, you know, they have started careers in this strange COVID lockdown, coming out of lockdown hybrid world, plus a narrative that is very different to the kind of work hard, play hard that older millennials, I guess, like me would know. So you've got this kind of imbalance of people and how they think. So whilst you have someone like me, you know, I am absolutely self-confessed workaholic, but I try to make sure that our business is never that way and the team never feels that pressure, but it's still really hard. So someone coming into the business that has never worked anywhere else before is coming into agency life where, yeah, you might be juggling 5 clients or 6 clients in a day, you might have a million tasks on, you've got client demands. What we try and do is put the kind of buffers in around that. So things like our flexible working, our kind of mental health policy, and that, you know, our team can access free therapy and counselling whenever they need it. All those things we put in around the edges, but like we are still a business that works with clients. So one of the biggest challenges there, you know, if someone comes into this business and has never worked in a business, let alone a PR agency, if to them like it's too full on and it's too much and the expectations are too much, you can't do anything about that. Like that's their truth. And so that's why that trust in the team is so important, and that kind of level of transparency and understanding, you know, what are people's limits without pushing them to the limit, I think is one of the biggest challenges. And then of course, you know, what happens in the outside world. As I say, I'm really big on, I want the team to be able to bring as much of themselves to work as possible. But if they don't want to, they don't have to. And then but that's hard for them. If they have things going on outside of work that then is affecting them, but they don't really feel comfortable talking about. So yeah, team members, you have a lot to juggle and balance. And we kind of try and counteract that. So as I say, we've got those buffers in around the way we work and the perks we offer. But then every single member of our team has a personalised progression plan. And that progression plan is not just about, oh, I want to reach this level. Within it, we talk about things like life goals. I want someone to be able to come to their progression plan meeting, their one-to-one, and say, actually, you know what, I'm really thinking about starting a family in 6 months or 12 months. Or, you know what, I really want to go and travel the world. Or I'm actually not sure if this role's for me, but I love the business. Is there something else I could try my hand at? So we try and create this environment where actually the blockers and the barriers and the reasons that you might lose people suddenly are broken down, and there's more of that two-way conversation. So as much as we can, and we don't always get it right, and other factors come in, I guess some of the challenges that businesses have around people and their people, we do try and counteract or anticipate as much as possible.
Yeah, love that. So do you have a progression plan yourself?
Oh, I don't have a progression plan. That's a great question. I always get I think there's something in that agency world where everyone's like, so are you just growing it to sell it? And I'm like, no, is that weird? No. Like, I set up the business because I love it. I might wake up in 5-10 years and not love it the same. So it's really interesting kind of building a business and building it around like, I love it and adore it, and as much as it drives me crazy, like I wouldn't change it for the world, but also then making sure that there is some succession planning just in case, and there is that kind of legacy piece around, what if I wake up one day and I don't love this anymore? I don't want the people who are in it and still love it to be left in the lurch because my things have changed. So yeah, I guess I sit in a weird place, a founder, where it's not a hobby business, like it's hard work, and I certainly don't reap the benefits that you should reap as a business owner. But yeah, I'm trying to kind of make sure that I kind of forward think and anticipate, and whatever the future holds at whatever point, that the business is ready and prepared for it. So, you know, we have simple things like, I've written basically like the guide to running East Village. All of my passwords live somewhere. Like, so if I'm hit by a bus, the business can still go, like no one's affected. If I go off and have a baby, the business can still run, no one's affected. If I go off and just decide I want to go travel the world for a year, the business still runs, no one's affected. So yeah, that's really important. So no, I don't have a progression plan. I guess it sits in my mind somewhere. But as a business owner, and I'm sure lots of founders will feel that, you're always looking for something that challenges you. You know, running a business is challenging in itself. So you're always looking for ways to surround yourself with different people or learn new things. And that's really important. So that kind of learning piece of the progression puzzle is something that I still try and embody as much as I can, because running a business is hard.
So let's go back to the start of your career. Was PR always something you wanted to do, or was there something else in the cards at the start?
Yeah, so PR, I guess I wanted to be in PR before it was like cool. So my mum and dad are both in the music industry, so I kind of grew up in that. very cool, very rock and roll, like surrounded with lots of media kind of lifestyle. So I was really, really lucky in that sense. Cool things like back in the day, like, you know, I'd finish school and go home, and then my dad would be like, we're going backstage, Top of the Pops and stuff like that. So we did some really cool stuff. So I was into that world for a little time, very, very short time. I thought I wanted to be a journalist. And then my dad simply said, no one likes journalists, Bab. And I was like, okay. Then I flipped it and I was like, well, who tells the journalists the things? So I wanted to be in PR really, really early doors, which helped me make loads of great decisions along the way, because actually simple things like, I remember at college, like, and you know, I loved school and college. Like, that was the best time ever. Couldn't wait to go to university. I remember at college having like real like loggerheads with the tutors, because they were like, you need to apply for Oxbridge. And I was like, why? So I could do English and become an English teacher. Like, I knew what I wanted to do, but then I wanted to keep it broad enough so that I could kind of pick and choose the bits that I loved. That helped me then when it came to even simple things like my placement year. You know, I remember at uni, the placement year was like, yeah, we can sort it out for you. And I was like, no, thank you. I looked at the list of like the companies that you could do it for, and I was like, I can't spend a year writing about drills. Like, that's not for me. And so that was really helpful. Like, it was helpful that I knew what I wanted to do and what kind of PR I wanted to do, and that, I guess, gave me that kind of freedom to map out then what my career looked like. But yeah, so PR was kind of always on the cards. Journalist for like half a minute until my dad was like, don't do that.
I love it. And where did you end up on your work placement?
So I applied at, I have a lot of self-made luck, which, interesting, we're just talking about this morning in the office on Slack, because there's this kind of lucky girl syndrome that's going around on TikTok apparently, which I think is the same as like law of attraction and manifesting, basically. So I had already known somebody through that I'd met through my mum and dad. She was running a music festival in Birmingham, so I'd agreed to go and work with her for a year. The music festival wasn't actually until the November that I was due back at uni, so I was starting with her in the November. So I was like, oh, I could use my summer though, like I finish in May. And I just sat one day and I was like, oh, where's like my dream place to work? And I was like, definitely in fashion, love fashion, where would it be? Stella McCartney, what a brand, love them. And I just sat, found like a real like info at kind of emailed them, didn't hear anything back, didn't think anything of it. Like, I hadn't sat and sent loads of emails. That was the only email I sent. And then I remember driving and getting a call from like this American girl. And so yes, my placement started. I did 6 months at Stella McCartney in the press office, which was genuinely the most incredible time of my life. Like, it was absolutely amazing. It was just brilliant. We were above the press office was above the Mayfair store, which was really cool. So I literally finished uni on the Friday, moved to London on the Saturday, started working there on the Monday, and yeah, we did just incredible things. It was brilliant, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, that sounds like the dream placement for sure. And also, like Stella McCartney, you've got the music ties, so you've got all that, and it's a pretty like right on brand, isn't it? Like, she's really sort of ethical, so you've got all that. So all those blocks of building up from there were there from the start, weren't they?
100%. And I think for me, Stella has always been really ahead of her time, really ahead of her time in terms of a brand that lives and breathes its values. You know, back then fashion houses, like, they didn't have values particularly. They didn't have causes to care about. Like, she as a person did that, but has done it in such a beautiful way. As something like, I'm obsessed with brand as a concept. Like, I'm obsessed with how a Stella McCartney or a Soho House, how do they create a lifestyle around their brand? Like that, I have a bit of an obsession with that. So she was absolutely like it was the perfect place for me to start my career, because actually I was a person who, even then, I didn't truly know that. It's in hindsight, I look back, but actually that brand, those values, that vision piece, like, really mattered to me. And even now, I do things in East Village, and I'm like, oh, it's very Stella McCartney of me, in terms of like as a brand, not her as a person, but how that business felt. And and even back then, everyone used the same, I don't know, soap and washing up liquid, but even as a business, it's like they had like ethical brands, it was ethical toilet paper and all these things, and you just think, God, they lived those brand values, and that was something that I really took with me in my career.
Yeah, I love that. Right down to wiping your bum, they are ethical.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so you just mentioned Soho House there. You are a mentor for Soho House, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I guess on my weird little bucket list of things that would make me feel like I was successful, I've always had like being a member of Soho House on there. It's always been something I wanted, and I applied during lockdown for membership, and so I've been a member for a kind of year and a half, and it's amazing. And I saw the opportunity come up for mentoring, and so they have teamed up with Creative Mentor Network, which is all about getting young, often underrepresented backgrounds into the creative industries. So I do tons and tons of mentoring anyway, and have kind of throughout my career. But yeah, for me, that one really spoke to me. Soho House as a concept, like people see obviously as a kind of exclusive members club, but everything that kind of Soho House was built around was around creatives and creating a community for creatives to thrive and collaborate. So yeah, mentoring through that is just incredible. So I have a wonderful mentee called Billy. She's fantastic. It's a really great scheme, and I love it because all of the mentees, they get a free membership, so they get to experience that. They get to network with all of the mentors. Creative Mentor Network and Soho House do loads of kind of mixes together. So yeah, it's a fantastic scheme. It's really cool.
Cool. And do you have a mentor yourself?
No, I've always struggled with this one. As someone who is always at there like, get a mentor. What I talk about a lot is create what I call your own kind of unofficial non-exec board. So actually, rather than having one mentor, I think when you're younger as well, having one mentor is great because it keeps you focused and can really give you that direction that you need and that advice. I think as you start to progress through your career, my biggest advice to people is create your own non-exec board. And by that, I mean almost have unofficial mentors who you can call on for different things. So if you're having a problem that's around commercials or finance, someone you can call on for that. If you're having a problem because you've got a team issue and you need to talk it out with someone, have that. If you've got really exciting idea and you need like your hype girl to hype you up and get you to just get it over the line, have that person. And I think that is invaluable, especially when you are a sole founder, because being a sole founder, it can be a really lonely place. So kind of making sure you've got, rather than one mentor, that kind of collection of people around you who you can call on when you need them. So I have that more than I have a traditional mentor. And I guess that also comes back to kind of understanding like my own progression plan, like who would I need as one mentor, what do I want them to be able to do for me, and that's really important, I think, in that mentoring relationship, is that you know what you want that person to be able to help you achieve, and that's probably something I've not quite nailed yet. So yeah, I go for the unofficial non-exec board instead.
Yeah, I think that's such a good idea, because you can't get everything from one person, can you? It's so important to have different people for different aspects of your life and work and relationships and everything like that. Like, you can't get everything out of one person, can you?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah. So giving back and mentoring and charity work seems to be a huge part of what you do. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the charity you founded?
Yeah, so it's always really interesting with this, because it wasn't a conscious thing. So being someone who is super charitable was not a conscious thing at all for me. Then when people talk about it, and I'm like, does everyone not do that? And then I suddenly realised, like, oh no, not everyone does this. So I'm a co-founder of a charity called Let's Feed Brum, incredible volunteer-led charity. We're now kind of 6-7 years old. And Let's Feed Brum started really, really beautifully and organically. It was all centred around a really fantastic guy called Ben. He used to go out with a couple of friends, quite literally just making flasks of tea and sandwiches at home. They'd go out when they could and they'd hand them out to rough sleepers. We met Ben, and then Let's Feed Brum was kind of born. In a short version of the story, we decided, we at the time, so as East Village, we were working with Itihas, a restaurant in Birmingham. We wanted to do something great at Christmas that really kind of helped Itihas give back, but in a really kind of genuine way. And that's how it was born. So we were then introduced to Ben. Itihas came out. We literally rocked up in the city centre, folded out tables, hot food, and served it. And it was absolutely incredible as a thing to do. It was, rather than there's a real importance in going around and handing out food, of course there is, but actually really quickly we realised that the food really is a means to an end. We talk a lot about the cup of tea as a vehicle to start those conversations. So actually what we found was, as we stood there handing out hot food, other volunteers were having just really great chats with people, and people who were really struggling, people who had mental health challenges, people who the homeless services in the city were struggling to engage. So Let's Feed Brum was kind of born around the whole notion of, yes, we hand out food, drink, supplies to people every single day, but actually it's about that befriending piece, and it's about how do we bridge that gap between people on the streets or at risk of homelessness, so they might be in temporary accommodation, and the homeless services. So it's really important, and over those years we've built really, really strong ties with the likes of Shelter, Sofa Fireside, St Basil's, to make sure that we can kind of connect the dots. And if they've got a person they're really trying to engage because they've got accommodation for them, what part can we play in trying to help them build their own trust and go and seek the help. Let's Feed Brum, as I say, 7 years old. We got the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service at the end of last year, which was amazing. So that is the MBE equivalent for volunteer charities, which is very cool. I think we've got a garden party at Buckingham Palace coming up, so we're excited. And that was amazing for our volunteers, so we as a charity are volunteer-led. We don't have any employees. Our volunteers go out every single night, Monday to Sunday, handing out hot food, drink, sleeping bags. We do 2 breakfasts a week at outside Birmingham Cathedral. That's a lot of people and a lot of man hours to make it work. So winning something like Queen's Award for Voluntary Service was just incredible, not just for the charity, but actually for the volunteers who give their time, to kind of see like what a recognition for them. So Let's Feed Brum kind of ticks along, keeps me busy. I'm involved in a couple of other things as well. So I sit on the management committee for Tabor Living, which is a homeless accommodation project in Birmingham. We're just going through a massive but very, very exciting stage at the moment. So we're moving into a new location up on Bristol Street, which is going to have community rooms as well as the kind of emergency shelter. It's absolutely amazing. And then I'm a patron of Sofa Fireside as well, which is obviously the homeless kind of drop-in hub centre down in Digbeth. So all keeps me very busy.
Yeah, non-stop. I love how, like you said, with food, it is such a bonding moment. Like if you're at home and you're eating dinner with your partner or your friends, like that's when you connect with people, and to not have that connection must be so hard for people. So bringing that to people is incredible. And that's amazing. So how do you switch off? Do you ever switch off?
You know what? I actually really do. Like, I think I'm really lucky. Do I? She says. A really fantastic person that I've done some work with, that I connected with on Instagram. She really champions this idea of work-life blend. So instead of work-life balance, which is the notion that you kind of work 9 to 5 and then you live 5 to 9 and at weekends, the whole notion that you make your work and life blend together, which I do really truly believe in. And I think sometimes as someone who is a self-confessed workaholic, that notion can be a little bit scary because you go through guilt. Like, so if I pick up my laptop at the weekend or an evening, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. But actually then if you can make sure you find that balance, like actually I just work better at certain times. And I think pre-COVID, I was conditioned, you know, I spent my days in meetings pretty much. So actually I did a lot of work in the evening. So now my brain is just more switched on in the evening. So what I'm trying to really kind of forcefully and proactively do is work with that. So making sure you kind of understand that when you have a lull, like go and do something else, don't feel like you have to be tied to your own laptop. So I do switch off. I'm big on like a box set. So I like to try and get into box sets. I've just finished Traitors, which was incredible. So yeah, big on TV is my switch off a lot, I guess, because I just love coming home, pajamas on. I'm a real like walk through the door, straight upstairs, makeup off, hair up, bra off, pajamas on. Like that is, I don't sit on my sofa in jeans. Like we don't, when we're home, we're chilled. So I love to just do that with my husband and the dog and just chill out for a bit. I like to do other things. So during COVID, during lockdown, I got really into yoga as well. And I've been a bit rubbish lately, but I do really, really enjoy yoga. I do it through a brilliant woman called Donna Noble, who runs Curves and Yoga, which is all about, because I am a plus size gal, it's all about showing that yoga is for everybody, quite literally shape, size. So yeah, I really love doing yoga. And then yeah, just having great experiences with friends and family. And I know that sounds a bit lame, but I just like to do stuff with people that I love. That is my big switch off. I have joined a book club, which anyone that knows me knows I buy all the books and I don't read them. So Audible is now my new friend, and I've done 3.5 books this year. I'm feeling good. So yeah, it's that's kind of how I switch off.
Yeah, no, and I don't think spending time with friends and family is lame at all. Like I think you need people that are not in your world to bring you back down sometimes, don't you?
And PR by nature is a job that, you know, people say, what are your hobbies? And I'm like, PR is a role really that gives you hobbies. Like it's a very sociable job. You get to do very cool things. So actually, I really like my downtime to be downtime, to be like a wine with friends or a really great dinner with my husband or family. And yeah, that's really, really important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I've got 3 questions I am asking everybody at the end of their interviews. So the first one is, what is one piece of advice you wish you had at the start of your career?
Just trust the process. Just trust the process. I'm big on kind of positive thinking and I guess manifestation and all those things, but like just work hard, and because you have to work hard. Like as much as I'm really into the work-life balance notion and the self-care notion, you kind of have to work hard. That's really, really important. So yeah, but trust the process, and things won't always go right. They will sometimes go wrong, and that's absolutely fine. Like just trust the process. You will be fine through it all.
Love it. Yeah, I think with work-life balance, people forget the work bit at the start sometimes, don't they?
Yeah,
it's like
definitely.
There you go. Okay, what is one book, talk, or podcast that you would really recommend to someone?
Oh God. I've got I must have loads of good books as well now. The podcast that I started listening to right at the beginning, obviously now it's like the biggest thing since sliced bread, is Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO. And actually some of those really early doors interviews that he did were fantastic. It was really raw. It was very much like getting into the psyche of founders. So if you're a founder, I would rewind past all the celebrities and go right back to the beginning of Diary of a CEO, because there were some beautiful nuggets around it's okay to feel these things and you will feel these things, and this is how you push through and this is how your mind works. And some of that was incredible. Yeah, so I'd definitely recommend that. And High Performance podcast as well is a good one. I'm a bit rubbish at kind of keeping up and listening to it, but I've learned some really great nuggets from High Performance podcast as well.
Amazing. And who is one person who has really inspired you in your career?
Mum and dad. Easy. My parents, so my mum's a singer, my dad has his own record label and has been tour manager for people like Lulu and the Beach Boys, so they both had really cool careers that they've driven. So neither of that, they are really well known in the music industry but not famous, and I think that is a beautiful place to be, because I would not want to be famous, absolutely no way, never. I think it's a beautiful place to be, to have driven your career and built those reputations. And, you know, for me, I've just had the best childhood because they almost they really lived that work-life blend. They really lived that freedom of running your own business. And I saw two people working really hard who were always there. I never came home from school and they weren't there. So actually, you know, they showed me the power of having a career that you love and working your butt off for, but then prioritising the things that really matter. So yeah, mum and dad, easy.
Amazing, love it. Okay, Tara, if the people watching want to find out any more about you and East Village, where can they find you?
Yeah, so come stalk away. I'm Tara Attfield-Tomes. I recently got married, so Tara Attfield-Tomes, but I'm at Tara Tomes on everything. Come find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. I don't really use Twitter anymore. It's become a void of moaning people. So come find me on Instagram or LinkedIn. And East Village, we are at East Village PR on everything, and eastvillageagency.com. Stalk away.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tara.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.